Welcome, artists. I'm Caleb Jacobo, Dean of Admissions at New Masters Academy. Today, we're taking a deeper look at the Master Mentorship Program, one-on-one coaching that turns wandering practice into focused progress. I'm joined by Iliya Mirochnik, Master Painter and Mentor, and Catherine Bobkoski, our Coaching Director and one of our most booked coaches. So today, we'll walk through some of the biggest questions we hear every day about the Master Mentorship Program. Ready? Let's get started. So to kick things off, here's a 2-minute glimpse of master level mentorship in action. So this is with Bill Perkins. He's the art director on Disney's Oscar-winning Aladdin, and his student, Evan Chen. They discuss how principle-driven critique, not quick tricks, or how that's what fast tracks you to real growth, and has already shaved years off Evan's learning curve. Please roll the clip.
Bill is just really, really lovely to have as a mentor. I took his composition class, and it was like a third eye opened up in the middle of my head, and I said, wow, if this person could actually review my work, I think my work could improve so much. And after that first one-on-one with Bill, I was just like, yeah, if I could have this on the regular, that would just be phenomenal, this expert just coming at me every 2 weeks with all of this gold mine of advice.
The questions that she was asking, what she was doing, were very thoughtful. They weren't just technique driven. They were very thoughtful about building art and really being more expressive in making the art. I try to avoid as much as possible as, saying anything about tips or tricks or anything like that, because I don't believe that's the way we build art. And Evan's questions have always been about it, and her work really shows that this is an exploration into this. This is an exploration into where I am right now in that exploration. And so that's what's making it really exciting for me to meet whenever we can, because there is always a really profound question about where we go from here.
Bill is saving me so much time by pointing out my problems that I wouldn't see. I probably wouldn't be able to see these problems for another 5 to 10 years. But Bill has just, really, really fast-tracked that for me. So I definitely always look forward to the meeting, even if I feel like I haven't done too much.
When I became an art director, the key thing that I realized that I never expected was my job was really less about me doing beautiful artwork, and my job became making people feel comfortable while they're uncomfortable, because I'm going to ask them to be uncomfortable. I'm going to ask them to go outside their comfort zone. I'm going to ask them to stretch, and it's going to hurt, that kind of thing. So what I realized too with the mentor program, it's very much like that. Everybody's got their own situation. So to kind of be there to kind of help folks kind of understand what they're going through at that moment, and then try to help them be comfortable in that difficult zone, in that difficult thing, and try to give them something to look forward to, or some challenge to move towards. That's the thing that I find interesting.
Evan says that coaching saved her several years, 5 to 10 years of trial and error. Iliya, why does targeted feedback work like a time machine for skill in these kind of situations?
Primarily has to do with you not being aware of what is correct or incorrect in the work that you have. So it's possible to figure it out over a longer period of time by comparing it to other art and comparing it to other people online and asking other people to point out what's wrong. But obviously it's not as good as having a person with a lot of experience to just pinpoint exactly what's going on there and to concentrate the techniques on those areas.
Catherine, Bill also talks about making artists comfortable when they're uncomfortable, and I really like that idea. How do you keep students motivated when the work is stretching them, like Bill says?
Yeah, I loved it when he said that too, because I think that's exactly right. And you were just saying how difficult it is to learn how to paint and draw. Yeah, it is difficult. And if you're going to learn how to do something difficult, you kind of have to be not so good at it at first. And usually people don't enjoy that. They don't like feeling like, wow, I feel so unskillful, or I thought I would be able to pick this up a lot quicker. And I'm finding that to be very challenging, and it's not happening as quickly as I would like. Even if you're shaving years off of how long it would take, it never feels like it's fast enough. So I think it's really important to, like, for example, have the coach give you a more reasonable view of what your work actually is like, because we tend to, I think, be way hard on ourselves and think, this is terrible, I can't draw, this is awful. And as a coach, you look at it and it's like, no, I see improvement compared to last week and the week before that. Look, you're doing this better, you're doing this better. Like the gesture is way nicer, the proportions are more on target. You're thinking about value in a more specific way. Look at all these wins that you're accumulating, but it might be hard to see it because you're too close to it, right? You can't really be objective. So a coach is there, I think, to help you actually see the wins that you are making. And like with that, of course, you need critique, right? You need the feedback, a kind, thoughtful feedback, critique is so precious. And that is really helps you to grow.
I wanted to do a few quick FAQs here to get them out of the way, because I know these are like some of our top ones we're getting. Do you need a portfolio when you're signing up? No, you don't need a portfolio. You can come beginners, you can build one from scratch. If you have one, you can bring that and then we'll build up from there. That's, like I said, we adapt to whatever the student is doing. Where do the sessions happen? So the sessions are happening very much like this. They're happening on Google Meet twice a month, 30 minutes each, and the format is very similar. You come on like this, you don't need a lot of tech skill or anything else, and you're able to jump right in. One of the things we help you do when you come is that we help you figure out who is the best fit for you, because like we talked about earlier, you don't know if you don't know. And the best thing for you as an artist is going to be matching you up with a coach that's appropriate for where you are and what your goals are. And that's something that, again, can be challenging for someone coming in and just being like, well, I'm not sure where to go. So we make it really easy through the Master Mentorship Program. You just come, you click, we ask you the questions, we hold your hand from there, get you on board and get you progressing, because that's the entire goal here. We are about halfway through our stream here. We have another video to share with you. Let's hear from another coaching student. So this is Tim Duncan, who's studied with Catherine for about 2 years. He's called coaching before the second best decision of his art journey, which is right after joining NMA as the first one. So let's hear from Tim.
Yeah, Catherine's had an enormous impact as my coach. She's so supportive. She definitely has the ability every time we meet to critique what I'm doing and tell me, specifically what I need to work on and then how to go do it. So my progress has been way faster and my understanding and knowledge a lot broader and deeper than if I hadn't had the coaching. But she also keeps me on track. I mean, there's an embarrassment of riches at NMA in terms of content and lots of shiny objects when you're trying to learn how to do something. And one thing else that coaching does and that Catherine does is let's talk about the plan. So, what's the immediate plan and kind of the midterm and the long term, and maybe stuff is still being figured out, but we know where we want to go over the next few months. So here's what needs to be the priority. And if things change, then the priorities change. But kind of keeping me on track and focused, and also feeling accountable to myself and to the time I spend with her and the investment she's making really helps me stay on track. So those are just a couple of things and a couple of benefits, but it's been terrific.
Like I said before, Catherine, Tim has called coaching, the second best decision after enrolling at NMA, and he's just kind of illustrated why. Can you walk us a little bit through what like a typical one of these group coaching sessions actually look like?
Yeah, so Tim is always really organized and he brings a lot of work to each session. And he always has kind of like specific things that he wants to talk about. So he might kind of break things out into like, okay, here's my life drawings that I did this week. Here's the assignments I did this week. He works on commissions, portrait commissions and stuff like that. So he'll bring those to show and discuss. And so we'll kind of like, hit the bullet points. All right, what are we talking about with these different categories? I'll give like a critique. Sometimes I do draw overs, especially if there's like, sometimes specific things that he's working on that it can be really helpful to just see a few small tweaks and how that can really elevate the work. So I'll sometimes do a draw over to try to illustrate that and really make it clear. We'll talk about like, okay, directions to go in. I see this is working, these are great. Tim is also one of those students that is, he's been drawing for so long at this point and, really working consistently for a long time, that he's, really investing more in like thinking about a personal style, like techniques, like what kind of stylistically is interesting to him and what different directions does he want to go with that. So we'll talk about that and discuss ways to kind of, continue working and developing those, those specific things.
Before we look at our last video here, because we're coming up on the end, I wanted to answer one of these more basic ones that students might be wondering is, how do I prep for a first session? Like what do I need to bring or think about? Catherine, did you want to take that one?
Yeah, so first session, what do you bring? So first of all, some recent work, I'd say like at least 5 pieces, but I always feel like more is more. Like I always sort of want to see everything. So, but yeah, some recent work. And I think students sometimes get a little bit shy about this. Like they only want to show their best things. I want to, show you the things where I felt like I was actually being really successful. No, bring all of it, even especially the ones where you felt like you were really struggling, because that's super helpful for us to see, basically. And then I think it's helpful to, bring some bullet points, just some ideas of what your goals are or what problem areas you have. I mean, granted, I think goals can change over time. That's totally normal. That's to be expected. And then I think it's really helpful and exciting and fun to talk about your inspirations, like if there's artists that really inspire you. And then I think it's, good to maybe bring some, some questions about, I don't know, whatever might come up. Like sometimes students have very granular questions about materials that they've just never had anyone to ask before. So, anything like that, you can just bring your random questions. How do I set up lights in my studio, right? Or like, I don't know what to do with this thing that was on the supply list. What do I do with this? And, anything random kind of like that, bring that, because now you actually have someone to give those questions to, and you can, trust the answer that you're getting a little bit more. And then, besides that, just kind of chill out, I guess, because at least if you're meeting with me, I'm going to ask you a whole barrage of questions after that, and probably, give you, way more to respond to than what you may have even expected. So you don't need to prepare that much, honestly. If you bring those things, and then show them to your coach. Your coach is going to have probably 10x the number of questions to respond back to you with, and that's how we really get to know you in that first meeting. So yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah, it sums it up.
Maybe Iliya first, and then we can get Catherine on what idea. I mean, what do you see in students? What can students expect? How should you even be thinking about progress? What should they be looking at, and what are you looking at too? Maybe of how are you judging whether they're progressing along well or not?
The greatest advice is to, and this is very hard, is to not think about long-term progress almost at all. Like it's good to think of, like almost put it on a calendar, like a day, like a year in the future of that's the day I will think about my long-term progress. Every other time, it's just like skills, like and as concrete a skill as you can. Like, have I improved my hatch on like this part of the skull or whatever? Like really, like, and if you see that, that's awesome, because your overall improvement and progress, it comes from like the accumulation of all of these like skills that you have. It's so much easier to focus on one skill and practice it and improve on it than it is to like think like, okay, well, in 2 years I'm going to be an artist who's won awards, and here's the kind of amazing giant paintings I'll paint. Like that's awesome, and that might happen, and hopefully will happen, and I believe it'll happen. The only issue is that's there's so much there that's outside of your control. So focus on what's in your control, which is the improvement of very particular small skills.
I like that.
That's
Catherine.
a great answer. When you're first starting out, when you're a beginner, it's like you're climbing a ladder and the rungs are really close together. So, each new little thing that you learn, they might be like pretty critical, important things. But the first few things are like, it's pretty quick to progress because you're making a big impact each time you learn something, right? So it's like each rung of the ladder, it's like, woo, look how quick I'm going. Like, oh my gosh, I'm like a speed demon climbing up this ladder. The more you learn, the farther and farther apart the rungs get, right? So it's like at some point, you might just feel like I've been reaching for this next rung of the ladder for like 2 years. That's kind of how I feel. Someday I'm going to get it. But, it takes more time, more effort, more specific thinking, like more finesse, more granular things in order to get to that next rung of the ladder. So if you're really new starting out in mentorship or just studying in general, you might feel like you can see progress every week, right? Or at least every month if you're working consistently. And the further along you are in your journey, you might have a harder time seeing that progress. But it doesn't mean that you're not making progress. That's all. So that's where the big box of drawing comes in.
We did have one more video I wanted to share with everyone. This one's fun. So formal one-on-one master mentorship sessions are at the core of the coaching program, but the learning doesn't stop when the video call ends. The digital campus is where mentors and students stay visible, share sketches, and keep progress moving between sessions. A perfect example is our teammate Michael Provosk. Although he's not enrolled in master mentorship, he posts his studies in the public sketchbook, which is one of the channels on our digital campus, and often receives quick nudges and help from our master mentor, Marion Littlejohn, who is featured in this video as well. This 3-minute clip shows how the campus amplifies structured mentorship, providing extra accountability and community insight for anyone juggling work and art.
So working behind the scenes at NMA while also trying to work through the drawing foundations here as a student has been an interesting experience because it's a little different than your average student's experience. I think one thing that connected me to Marion was that she also works with NMA as well. She's been very supportive of me in the different endeavors I've taken in my personal art and sharing in my sketchbook thread on the digital campus, as she is with many other people. It made it really easy to reach out regarding my own art education journey in a more non-structured way.
He's a sincere, hardworking, earnest artist. And I always felt like he's exactly the kind of person that, given a little bit of support, could achieve absolutely wonderful and great things. That was something that really kind of guided me in my interactions with Michael is, it's those little nudges, those little pieces of advice that help a person just kind of make good decisions about how to organize their time, how to structure their learning.
She was able to provide me with a lot of guidance and suggestions in regards to continue persevering in my art education in a way that worked with the rest of my real life responsibilities in a way that was sustainable. It's been very inspiring to see the way that she works with all these students, whether formally and in a structured way, or more informally through her interactions on the digital campus with other students. I think that's also really highlighted the importance of mentorship as a whole for anyone in their art education path.
No matter who you are or what your budget is, or where you feel you're at in your art career, stepping out of yourself, reaching out to other artists, that's always going to be beneficial. It's really what we're there for on the digital campus. And there are so many wise students, so many students bursting full of knowledge and insight that, if you've got any kind of worries or questions, you'll always get a great response from someone. And perhaps further down the line, that might take you into thinking about, oh, well, maybe I want to sign up now for something a little bit more official. But, don't feel you have to wait for that to start reaching out and getting support on the community, because really that's what every single one of us who's a member of that community is there for.